Countryside United Methodist Church. It's great to be together on this beautiful Sunday morning, sharing in fellowship and in worship. We serve an amazing God, and today I pray that we are reminded of that as we reflect on our personal journey, leading us to the joy of being a child of God. Tim Hansel points out in his devotional, in the Senior's Devotional Bible, that many of us may still be limited in our understanding of God's grace. Unknowingly, we still try to serve a God that we think is stingy, who loves us only for how much we do to serve Him. But what I'd like to do is ditch those ideas for a better understanding of God's grace and what He expects from us. Andrew Womack explains at his Gospel Truth Seminars the definition of grace. It means unmerited, unearned, undeserved favor in the eyes of God. Think of it this way. Grace is what God does, and faith is what we do. And you have to have both to receive salvation. This is what the Bible says in John 16, verses 8 and 9 of the Amplified Bible, Classic Edition. And when He comes, He will convict and convince the world and bring demonstration to it about sin and about righteousness, the uprightness of the heart, and the right standing with God, and about judgment. About sin, because they do not believe in me, they do not trust, they do not rely, they do not have faith in, and they don't adhere to, obey, follow, or stand by me. In other words, the only sin that is going to send people straight to hell is rejecting Jesus Christ as their personal Savior. God's grace has provided not only for your salvation, but also for everything in your life. Everything. If you don't respond in faith to what has been provided by God in grace, you won't receive it. To receive it, you have to believe it. Believe it is so. Dispel doubt. Claim it as a child of God. Now, when I was a single mother, I told my kids, I am thankful because we are affluent. Now, my kids looked at me kind of confused, going, what? What does that mean? And I said, we're rich. And my kids stepped back and they said, how can we be rich? We are wearing used clothes. We are driving an ugly green car. We live in a cracker-box house, and we're riding second-hand bikes. How are we rich? And I smiled at them, and I said, we have a roof over our head. We have food in the fridge. We have clothes on our back. We have reliable transportation, even if it is an ugly green car. And we have all the bills paid, and we have $34 in the bank, and it's only the third of the month. And I said, that's what it means to be rich. You have everything you need and more. That's my idea of prosperity, because it always comes. It always comes. When I don't have enough to get by, when I was a single mom, I would receive a check in the mail for a refund I didn't even know I was owed. And it was just enough money to cover what I didn't have. That's prosperity. This is a perfect example of grace. You see, without your positive response in faith, God's grace won't save you. You have to believe it so. You have to claim it. For grace to truly mean something, it must be appreciated. As it's explained in 1 John 5:4 of the Revised Standard Version Bible, that tells us, for whatever is born of God. And remember, last Sunday we talked about being reborn. We talked about transformation. We talked about giving up selfishness and giving selflessness. And in that transformation is where you are reborn in love. And so, for whatever is born of God overcomes the world. And this is the victory that overcomes the world is our faith. This is what grace from God can do in your life when you accept God's grace by faith. Just like me, when you trust that God will provide, that's the grace we need to appreciate. It's unmerited, it's unearned, it's undeserved. And yet, God shows His favor on us even when we don't measure up to what He expects from us. He still provides for us. Understanding the true meaning of grace is not the only part of God's Word that we just don't completely grasp. In Acts chapter 17, verses 6 through 32, is where Paul was speaking to the Jews and God-fearing Greeks in the marketplace. There were a group of Epicureans and Stoic philosophers who began to debate Paul's preaching. And some of them asked, "What is this babbler trying to say?" And others said, "I think he's advocating for foreign gods." But what Paul was really doing was preaching about Jesus Christ and His resurrection and salvation. Then they took him and brought him to a meeting of the Areopagus, where they said to him, "May we know what this new teaching is that you're presenting? You're bringing some strange ideas to our ears, and we want to know what they mean." Now, all the Athenians and foreigners who lived there spent their time doing nothing but talking and discussing and analyzing and listening to the latest ideas. They weren't God-filled ideas. They were just philosophical ideas. But Paul then stood up in the meeting of the Areopagus and said, "Men of Athens, I see that in every way you are very religious. For as I walked and looked carefully at your objects of worship, I even found an altar with the inscription, 'To the unknown God.' Now what you worship has something, now what you worship as something unknown, I'm going to proclaim to you. I'm going to make it known to you," Paul said. "The God who made the world and everything in it is the Lord of heaven and earth and does not live in temples built by man's hands. And He is not served by man's hands as if He needed anything, because He Himself gives all men life and breath and everything else. From one man, He made every nation of men." That was Adam. "And they should inhabit this whole earth, and He determines the time set for them and the exact places where they should live." Now that includes you and me. For all of our misguided journeys in life, look where we are right now. Right where God planned us to be. Here, in His house of worship. Strengthening each other in our faith and seeking what He wants us to do to serve Him. Think about that. Paul continues by explaining to the people, God did this so that men would seek Him and perhaps reach out for Him, even though He is within reach, He's close, He's always there, He's just a prayer away. For in Him, Paul said, we live and move and have our being. As some of your own poets have said, we are the offspring of God. Therefore, since we are the offspring of God, we should not think that the divine being is like gold or silver or stone figures that man has carved and created. No. An image made by man's design and his hands and his skill. That is not God. In the past, God overlooked such ignorance. But now He commands all people to repent, being Lord. For He has set a day when He would judge the world with justice by the man He has appointed, Jesus Christ. He has given proof of this to all men by raising him up from the dead, and he will raise us up as well. When they heard about the resurrection of the dead, some of them sneered. They rejected. They did not receive God's grace. Others said, we want to hear you again on this subject. At that, Paul left the council, and a few men became followers, and followers of Paul, including some very important women in the community, along with a number of others. Here ends the word of God. Hansel continued in his devotional by saying, some people believe we serve a God who's embarrassed by laughter and who is surprised by spontaneity. We've forgotten, or maybe we never realized, that each day is a gift. We did nothing, absolutely nothing to deserve this day. It is a gift from God. We've forgotten, or maybe refused in our arrogance, and to believe that each breath is a gift. And all the work in the world, all that we do in this world won't give us one more breath. Now, all the philosophers in the world and all of their stoicism and their seriousness are not saved by their attitude. We are saved only by the humble submission to God through grace and faith in Him and the promise He makes to us. We're not condemned for having fun in our faith and having a sense of humor while bringing God's message to us with a smile. We've forgotten, or maybe we never learned, that the mark of a believer is not only love, but it's joy, it's wonder, it's appreciation, it's surprise, it's credibility. Ooh, a big one. It's peace. It's tenacity, being ever flexible and open. It's hope. It's simplicity. And it's play. You see, it's okay to be a little goofy. Sometimes you do that to have fun in your faith. Can you imagine the tragedy of having all that you ever wanted and not appreciating a bit of it? Can you? Maybe you were lucky enough to go to Disney World. I wasn't. But I was lucky enough to have a friend who gave me my hat. And it makes me smile every time I put it, and I'm looking up there and I'm seeing a ton of smiles. Of course I am. It's okay to laugh in your faith. We share faith, fun, and fellowship right now. Can you imagine the sadness of seeing someone desperately squinting in the horizon, looking for what is right at their feet? And what is at their feet is a firm foundation in God and His guidance and His Word, the Bible. But they're looking for it in all the wrong places. May God open us up to the good things in life so that our hearts are happy and don't grow old and shriveled up from being too staunch and too serious. May He teach us to be supple and thirsty. And I'm thirsty right now. I've been preaching, I'm thirsty. No. And appreciate everyday wonders of just plain being alive. So that our minds don't grow old and, weary. Oh, that was good. May He help us not to be so useful that we become useless. And what does that mean? So useful you become useless. 1 Timothy 6:17-20 is where Paul instructs Timothy to command those who are rich in this present world not to be arrogant, look at me, money, oh, you're not across the tracks. You're not where I can associate with you. Don't be arrogant, nor put their hope in their wealth. Wealth is not going to cure your cancer. Wealth is not going to heal your heart attack. Wealth, when you die, you can't take it with you. That's being useless, because what you have, you don't use for the good of others. Then Timothy reminds us to put our hope in God, who richly provides for us everything we need and enjoyment. Keeping it up. And in this way, they lay up treasure for themselves as a firm foundation for the coming age, so that they may take hold of life that is truly life, the true sense of living with a purpose. You see, Timothy guards. Paul said to Timothy, guard what has been entrusted to your care. Turn away from godless chatter and opposing ideas of what is falsely called knowledge, which some have professed, and in so doing have wandered away from the faith. Paul said to Timothy in closing, grace be with you. And I say to you, grace be with you. That's undeserved, unwarranted favor in God's eyes. And maybe, just maybe, we have the gift of life, and we have the gift of joy, and maybe a little bit of laughter, a little bit of levity, as we walk in our faith and serve God. Even better, and in a fun way. Now I would like to ask the children to come up front. And if parents need to carry the children, that would be fine. Let's remember the spoken words of Matthew 18:1-4. The disciples came to Jesus and asked, who is the greatest in the kingdom of heaven? Come on up here at the top of the steps, please. Now you see these children? Dad, if you want to sit on the step, you're welcome to. Paul wrote in Mark 18, verses 1-4, I tell you the truth, unless you change and become like these little children, you will never enter the kingdom of heaven. Therefore, whoever humbles himself like these little children will be the greatest in God's kingdom. Having a childlike faith, right here, having a childlike faith. And innocence, pure joy in life is what keeps you young at heart as your body grows older and your journey towards your final destiny grows closer. Everlasting life in God's kingdom, where there is no young, no old, and the secret to the fountain of youth is to keep your childlike faith, just like these little children, and trust in God. Amen. Thank you for helping me with it. Yes, come back here. Rich is adding to my sermon. It's a great improv. Now there's something I want you to remember, okay? You ready? Love God. Can you do that? Say it with me. Love God. Raise your hands high. Love God. Love others. Say it real loud. And love yourself. Remember that. Thank you, Rich. Everybody, love God, love others, and love yourself. Remember that. Thank you, Rich. That was a nice improv. In closing, I want to share a story. There was a little boy. We have 4 generations in this church. there was a little boy who went to the zoo with his grandma. And while he was at the zoo, they were doing face painting. They were painting paws on the faces of these kids. And he was standing in line, and this little girl ahead of him looked at him and said, "You have so many freckles on your face that I don't know where you have room to put a paw." Now that little boy was embarrassed, and he hung his head. And his grandma wanted him to feel okay. So she knelt down, and she looked at him. And she said, "You know what? I think your freckles are beautiful." She said, "When I was a little girl, I wanted freckles just like you." And she said, "What could be better than freckles?" And that little 7-year-old boy looked in her face, and he said, "Grandma, wrinkles." God be with you. God's grace. And now, give me just a moment.